Get ready. Woo! We are on tour, and we're doing it better than anybody else alive. It's so hard for me to sit back here in this studio looking at a guy out here hollering my name. When last year I spent more money on filmmaking in buying from one side of this world to the other than you make. You talk to the Netherlands, where Diamond Rings, where Jeff Steele, Wheeler Deer, Living Visual, Jeff Flag, son of a gun. Flag, son of a gun. And I'm having a hard time holding down this stuff.
Hey yo, it's that time in the show when we like to take a little survey. So is there anybody here that came to see that red hot black and white express? Survey says one more for the good guys.
Welcome to Fantasy Kingdom. I'm your host, Mikey, and riding with me, my co-host, that handsome gentleman, Howie. What's going on, brother?
Oh, not too much. Priscilla came by today, got my massage, so feeling good.
Nice, getting ready. We had a long weekend of football.
Oh,
Lots and lots of injuries.
a lot of guys slapping their heads, going, "Oh, geez, what am I going to do?"
Right? And that's why they have us.
That's right.
To go through it. Yep, to go through it. So let's start with some of the major injuries. We saw Saquon Barkley go down. They're saying they're thinking a couple weeks.
That's what I heard today.
They have not ruled him out yet this week, though. They say he's a fast healer. I do not expect
a regular sprain. I mean, there's high, there's low, and they said, well, it's a regular sprain. Okay.
Which is kind of like a low sprain. A high sprain usually means 4 to 6 weeks. The fact that it wasn't a high is really good, actually. He'll be back faster, but they play Thursday night. There's no way he's making them not just ruling him out right away is just gamesmanship, and it screws us fantasy owners.
That's all it is.
And it screws us fantasy owners.
Yeah, we got a guy in our league that's getting screwed because of Saquon, but that's okay.
Yeah, I wonder who that guy is.
not me.
Yeah, right.
I have enough troubles at the running back position. Let me tell you.
It's this guy right here. On the other side of the microphone. That's me. And then we had a really horrible one with Chubb.
Yeah. So bad they didn't even show it. All I can imagine is his knee went in the wrong direction.
It did. It buckled.
Leg and body went two different ways.
Do you remember the Willis McGahee one?
I don't. Well, the last one that I remember that was really bad was Theismann.
Okay. He was planted and they hit him directly on the knee and his knee went crumbled. We'll leave it at that. I haven't watched it. I've heard it. I've seen the picture of him laying on the ground afterwards, and the look on his face tells you everything you need to know. And I don't want to watch it. I don't need to see that.
God, I got to think they got right in there and gave him like a little shot of morphine or something. Because
he was just chilling on the cart.
Yeah, on the cart, I'm looking at him. It's like, okay, he knows something bad happened, but either he's in shock or they've numbed him up.
I might have been a little bit of both.
Probably. Oh, I'm sure he was in shock.
Yeah. Yep. So then we had some quarterback injuries, Anthony Richardson, concussion.
Yeah.
So who else you got on your list?
Well, Joe Burrow, of course, we're watching his calf.
That's odd, man, because that happened early in training camp.
Yeah.
He was saying that it was better for week 1, but he hasn't looked right since he started. And then it popped back up again this week. Yeah. That might be something that lasts all year. You got to be careful with that.
Well, it probably didn't help last week, in that rain and the nasty weather.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he doesn't seem like a quick healer to me. He's a little bit fragile. I mean, I know he comes back and he's a really good ball player. And matter of fact, last year with Tommy, the three of us were talking, we were about writing him off last year. Yeah. They came back. So You can't write him off. I mean, Higgins had a great game.
Yep.
Chase didn't have nobody else really had much of a game, but Higgins made up for it week 1 anyway. So
Yeah, his big fat goose egg week 1.
yeah. So if
You
you're
know,
a Cincinnati fan or you got those players on your team, I wouldn't panic yet, but I wouldn't be happy.
no, I want. It's not time to panic yet, but
Well, you're
it is time to
probably,
be concerned.
yeah. If you've got those guys on your team, at best you're 1-1 right now. Everybody I've played that had them on it, I've beaten. So
Yeah,
bring them on.
Yep. So who else do you have on your list?
Okay, well there's your quarterbacks, and then of course we had Chubb and Barkley. Jamal Williams last night, he tweaked his hammy a little bit, but he was talking about coming back. So I wouldn't rank him as out, but he's only going to be there another week anyway once Kamara comes back.
Okay.
You got Aaron Jones. I'm not sure how bad he is, but worst comes to worst, you got AJ Dillon to cover.
But it's not just Jones. It's Bakhtiari was out.
Bakhtiari's hurt.
Yep. Eldon Jenkins was out for the second half of that game.
Yeah.
So that line, and then they still don't have their wide receiver 1 and Christian Watson.
Right, they don't have Watson either. Yeah, I would worry as a Green Bay fan about the season already. Actually,
I wouldn't. I would worry from fantasy owners if you think you're picking up AJ Dillon as the backup to think that he's going to do something like amazing, because that left of the line, which is all pro, is little
Yeah.
Little,
yeah. So then you got Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Gibbs is his backup, but they did go out and sign Zonovan Bam Knight. Remember last year he was one of our guys we brought up. Yeah, they're bringing him back out of mothballs.
Well, Montgomery has a thigh contusion. It's a bruised thigh. They don't think he'll be back this week. But I was listening to Matthew Berry talk a little bit about this, and they said, Gibbs is still going to be in the role. Don't expect Gibbs to all of a sudden be like, the bell cow.
Oh, right. Yeah, he's got to bring him on.
Yeah, Craig Reynolds. Do you remember him from last year?
Yeah.
He's the running back 3. So Bam Knight now becomes the running back 3. Craig Reynolds becomes the running back 2. And then Gibbs. So Gibbs will probably see a larger share. But a sneaky one in a deep league, one of your deep league diggers, Greg Reynolds is someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he had a decent game.
Yep. So go keep going.
Okay. We did Richardson and Burrow.
Yep.
Devontae Adams is in concussion protocol now.
Yep.
Along with Jacoby
Myers. Yep.
So that leaves their receiving squad really, really.
Well, maybe they'll actually throw to Hunter Renfrow now.
Maybe. I mean, he's, there's nothing wrong with him. It's just he's been overshadowed by these other guys.
They just don't use him.
Right.
McDaniel hasn't used them yet.
Maybe they have to.
Which is really weird.
I really don't see him as a number 1.
No.
I see him as, so if I was Raiders, I don't know. I'd be hoping those guys come back soon.
Yeah, but if you think about where McDaniel came from, right? He came from having people like Wes Welker and Julian Edelman. You think Hunter Renfrow, who tore it up with John Gruden, you think they would use him in that Wes Welker role, and they just don't. For whatever reason, they don't use him.
Well, they're going to have to. I don't know who they're going to bring in. So
yeah, it'll be interesting.
Also, you got Metcalf from Seattle. He's got some sore ribs right now, but Lockett came through really good the other night. So
which made me dead wrong, because I was crapping on Lockett on Saturday.
I know. I was like, I like him, but when you got 3 really good receivers, this sort of clears that up. Maybe for this week, I don't know. Metcalf might be back. Sore ribs. I saw the hit.
Yeah.
And you can play with sore ribs.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting to see.
And then we're still wondering about Austin Eckler. I haven't heard anything. He wasn't on the field yesterday, and I don't know if he got on the field. If he's not on the field by tomorrow, I wouldn't look for him to. It's not good news.
Yeah. Well, the report that came out was there is no timetable for him to return.
Right.
Which is not a good thing.
No, it's not. believe me, because I have him.
Yep.
And then Logan Thomas,
Concussion.
who took that vicious hit. You know,
Oh,
that guy who did it, he did the same thing the week before, and got
and he
fined
launches
for it.
himself. Yeah, he launches
Yeah,
himself.
I mean, up in the air launch. I mean, it was total
Mhm.
boom. It wasn't a missed shoulder hit. It was a targeted helmet. I mean, that's two in a row.
Usually, when they're repeat defenders, they start getting suspended after fines.
I would think so.
So.
I would hope so, because that guy's going to kill somebody doing it that way.
Yeah.
You know, that's the worst part of it. That's what I have for injuries.
Okay. All right. So and with that, we'll talk a little bit. We'll move into the Howie's waiver wire pickups. So let's jump right into it. Who do you got as your top waiver wire pickup right now?
Right now,
Mhm.
and this is unless Kareem Hunt gets signed by Cleveland, you've got
Jerome Ford.
Jerome
Yep.
Ford, yeah.
Yep.
He got a couple. He did all right last night covering.
Yeah,
you know.
he had like he almost had, I think he had 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, he's a little bowling ball of a guy, but
Yeah.
but he looked good. Let's see, another guy I had for if you got to look for someone to replace Jamal Williams,
Mhm.
you got Tony Jones. He had two touchdowns and served quite well last night. You know, and that was a strange game. Carr was not perfect at all. He played 4 crappy quarters, and Taysom Hill was in there all the time. Luckily, their wide receivers did well up and down the field, but then once they got close, they used Tony Jones. So again, he's only gonna be the number one until Kamara comes back, and I don't think Kamara is going to come back with a lot of rust. I think that offense is going to be
really dangerous.
Dangerous, yeah. And they've got what could be one of the top 2 or 3 defenses in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
They tore it up last night.
Yeah.
So we got that with Jamal Williams. We talked about Aaron Jones a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
If you had Richardson on your team and you're looking for a quarterback, Minshew's his backup, but there's also Cousins is out there. Year after year, people kind of go Cousins, but he scores a lot of points. He scores them in losses, but he scores a lot of points as a quarterback.
Another one to think about from a quarterback standpoint that's starting to come on, C.J. Stroud.
Right? Oh,
he's not winning ball games, but he's putting up fantasy stats.
Right, and he runs real well. I like that. Let's see. Devontae Adams, we talked about that. Metcalf, Eckler. Right now, his replacement was not good this week,
and he hasn't been. Historically, he hasn't been.
Right. He had a decent week 1, just because they were running all over the place and running and throwing everywhere. So he had like 117 yards, but this week he only got like two or 3 fantasy points. So.
And historically, if you go back and look, he averages like 3.4 fantasy points when Eckler doesn't play. Like it just him coming in the middle of a game. Well, it's not just that they then scheme for him. Like when you set yourself up for Eckler and then you move to Josh Kelly, that's a completely different game plan.
Yeah. It's not like him running the show.
Exactly. So when you're looking at it, week 1 he comes in for Eckler and he has a really good game. Well, they didn't game plan for him. Week 2 they game plan for him and it didn't go well.
Well, plus Titans have a really good running defense, so that's going to make a difference. Let's see who now. Some of my lesser known guys that you might want to go pick up. I was really impressed by that first touchdown for the Bills. Latavius Murray come out of nowhere, and he's big, he's strong. He'll probably vulture a lot of carries from Cook. Cook's going to be your slasher, but Latavius they're going to use him in the red zone.
It's not just Latavius; it's also Damian Harris. It's going to be pick your poison. I truly believe early on it's going to be Latavius. He tends to be the more power runner when you need to bring some physicality to it.
Right.
And then you're going to see James Cook sprinkled throughout the whole game, and then you're going to see Damian Harris close the game. So that's kind of how it's looking. They're going to use these 3.
Well, the last couple of years, Buffalo, I've always criticized their run game, and they didn't have that powerful back.
Yeah.
You know, that really strong, oh shit, here he comes. So they've had a lot of they're dancing and they're quick, but I think he's going to make a really big difference to that team. It gives them stability.
Yeah.
You know, where they don't have to throw and they don't have to dink and dunk. They can give him the ball and get 3 or 4 yards and tire out that defense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. After him, I got Rashawn Johnson for the Bears.
Yep.
Khalil Herbert's supposed to be their number one, but Johnson got several catches the other day.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't score a lot, but he's a rookie and he's coming on. He wasn't their main guy.
Here's the thing: Rashawn Johnson was actually the backup to Bijan Harris at Texas,
There
and stole carries from Bijan. I have a feeling by end of year, Rashawn's going to be the starting running back.
You could pick him up now. I mean, the secret's out on him, but if you pick him up quick, he could be a good link in possible championship for you this year. You know, it's like last year, Khalil Herbert came on not late, but came on about the 4th or 5th game, and I was like, "Ooh, here we go." That's why they got rid of Montgomery.
Yep, exactly.
You know? Okay, I mentioned Kareem Hunt.
Yep,
and let's hope that all goes well with him. Another guy I like, and a lot of people passed him off in the draft because they picked up Najee Harris. Is Jalen Warren? He got like 12 points the other night.
He's actually outpointing Najee right now.
Big time.
Matter of fact, in the crunch time, they went to Jalen over Najee.
Yeah. So I liked him. I almost picked him as one of my last picks in our draft, but you get down there and it's like, wow, he's a backup, and I've already got 4 backups on my team.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I really like him. Zach Ertz is making a little bit of a comeback. They really liked him in the Cardinals. The only problem is he's on the Cardinals. But I like that new quarterback
Dobbs.
of theirs. Dobbs, he's fearless.
He's up and down. That's the problem with Dobbs. But what do you expect from a career backup? He's a career backup.
Yeah, so he's giving it all he's got. He might be a guy you could pick up in a deep league for you know, if you're really hurting. Let's see, Marvin Mims Jr. He only caught two passes, but 2 passes for 156 yards. So he gets open, and then pretty much my last 2, Tank Dell, receiver from Tennessee, and Sammy Laporta. I'm still trying to push him on people.
I've seen the trend for Laporta to be picked up more and more.
Yeah, I think he's more and more. I think the secret's almost out on him, but I like him. You know that he's reliable. So then now the secret's way out on these 3 guys, but I'm calling them the Rams triplets. You got Packer Nakua, you got Tutu Atwell, and you got Kyron Williams. So 3 guys with weird names, but they're producing.
Puka Nakua.
It's called Nuke.
Nuke. He's been picked up in like 80% of fantasy leagues already.
He's the largest pickup.
Yeah.
This last week.
The funny thing is, everyone's picked him up, but they're saying Cooper Kupp's probably gonna be ready come week 5. So enjoy Puka Nakua while he's there because
Cooper's not gonna. He's not gonna be everything though. They're gonna.
He's gonna go right back into the Puka Nakua role, which is that slot role.
But you're still gonna have to throw to somebody else because they're gonna, you know. I think the kid is going to be relevant the rest of the. I think that all 3 of those guys will be relevant.
We'll see.
Will they be Cooper Kupp-ish? No, but Cooper's going to draw double coverage.
Well, that's what Puka Nakua is doing right now. He's seeing all of Cooper Kupp's targets. So, although I think he may stay fantasy relevant, I don't think he'll be the superstar he's going to be early in the season.
No, I don't see him being a guy that you look next year and say, "Oh, I got to draft him first round."
Yeah. No, not like that. I don't see him getting 20 targets a game once Cooper Kupp comes back.
No, but he's got good hands, so they're going to use him. They're going to use him in the Hunter Renfrow type of setup. Not your top guy, but whatever you need. You got to have a catch, and you know.
Yeah, I also think he's going to be part of the replacement because Cooper Kupp is getting up there in age. This offseason, they could possibly unload him, knowing they have this kid in their back pocket who could be the next one.
And they could get he'd be great trade bait.
Yep.
You know, and they're looking like they're going to get rid of Cam Akers. That he's up on the trading block, sort of. And
Yep.
so those three young guys are kind of the future of the Rams.
Yep. I do agree. All right. So moving off of your waiver wire, we'll move into my my new segment. It's called Mikey's Weekly Cut Candidates, and it's 5 weekly cut candidates that you can take my advice or don't. I have looked at all the major outlets, PFF, and listened to Matthew Berry, and there's a bunch of them out there. Ezekiel Elliott's number 1. Zeke you're starting to see Zeke for what Zeke is. That's why Dallas got rid of him. He plays 31% of the snaps, and he had a god awful fumble. That offense is not going to continue to go through Zeke. It's not. He's run the ball 12 times for 42 yards. Yeah. He's actually done better catching the ball than he has, running the ball. So, I'm not sure he's worthy of a roster spot, but if you decide you want to hold on to him, hoping something happens to Stevenson and he becomes the old Zeke, you're holding on to name value right now. Right. Number 2, Donto Foreman, Chicago Bears. He was brought in to be RB2. He's been surpassed by not only Roshan Johnson, but also Travis Homer. He's no longer fantasy worthy. He's not even worth keeping on a roster. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't release him or someone tries to make a trade for him, because he was a big time fantasy back last year for Carolina after they traded McCaffrey, but he's not sniffing game days at all. He's been a healthy and active. Number 3, we're going back to New England. Juju Smith-Schuster. He's played, in the first half Monday night, he played 8 of the possible 16 snaps. The reports out of New England is him and the coaches just don't see eye to eye on anything. They're not real big on him. They love Devontae Parker. They love Kendrick Bourne. They have the 2 tight end sets with Gesicki and Hunter Henry. You're not going to see much of Juju.
There's no room for him, I guess.
I thought he played well last year in the Kansas City offense. He went over to New England, and it's just not a fit.
It's hard to see. Hard to see a young receiver like that, drop so fast after only a few years. Well, he's been in there 4 or 5 years now. Big hit with Pittsburgh, and then he went to Kansas City,
and was really good for Kansas City.
Yeah.
He went to New England, and he just doesn't fit in with that culture. Which doesn't surprise me. He's a TikTok guy. Bill Belichick does not.
Oh yeah, he's not real modern.
He doesn't strike me as the guy that is going to be real fond of someone running around the locker room doing TikToks and building his own brand.
So we're looking at personality conflict more than anything else, probably.
Yeah. Demario Douglas is a guy you should keep an eye on in New England. He's starting to see more and more snaps over Juju Smith-Schuster as wide receiver 3. Rondell Moore, Arizona, number 4. He's caught 4 passes for 47 yards in 2 games. Arizona's not a hotbed anyways for fantasy talent this year.
No.
The guys you want are Hollywood Brown and Zach Ertz and James Conner.
A little bit of Conner.
Yeah, and a little bit of Conner. All the other guys,
Yeah.
If you're looking for someone on the Cardinals to keep an eye on, Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson is a rookie that came out of Stanford. He's starting to see more and more playing time. So I don't think he's not fantasy relevant today, but as it goes, you might see him pop up on some of the waiver wires that we have. And then the last one is, Gerald Everett, tight end for the Los Angeles Chargers. And that's because Donald Parham's just kind of out-snapping him now. You called Donald Parham in week 1, and you said, this is the guy that, I want to see more of, and it looks like the Chargers do too.
He's a prototype built tight end, guy who could or should be playing basketball, and that's deadly in the end zone. When you're already 6'8" and your arms are 3.5 feet long, that's 11 or 12 feet before you leave the ground. That's 9 or 10 feet before you leave the ground, but it's nice to have that. And he's big and he blocks, and I like him.
Someone to keep an eye on, and I don't think he's going to be a cut candidate. It might be more of a trade candidate. Tyler Algier, he was part of the waiver wire last week. You saw Bijan Robinson starting to get a little bit more. The big thing is Cordell Patterson's getting ready to return from injury. When Cordell comes back, they're going to have two guys over the top of him. So I don't think he's going to be a cut candidate today, but he's on that borderline. So if you want to try to use him as trade bait, I would. All right. So those are my cut candidates for the week. Let's move into Thursday night primetime game. We have a barn burner coming up in San Francisco versus the New York Giants. Howie, what do we got on top for some of the primetime players for Thursday night?
Jeez.
Let's start on the Giant side of the ball.
That's the easy one. Jonesy's the only one I would play. Maybe Darren Waller and maybe
Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah.
If you're in a deep league, I might go with Isaiah Hodgins,
right?
Who is the slot guy. But the 49ers have one of the best defenses in football. You will just watch Dallas blank them in their own house, and now they're going to San Francisco, find a cross country without Barkley.
Yeah,
it's not looking pretty.
They got Matt Breida as their running back. They're number one there. So, yeah, and then you've got the usual suspects on the Niners. You know, you got CMC, Ayuk, Debo, the San Francisco D. Hell, in this game, you might even be able to put Purdy in if
you need him.
If you need him,
okay.
I think they're gonna. I don't know. I think if you've got something better to do Thursday night, take your wife out to dinner or something, because that game is in the bag already. Yeah.
Just so you know, Brandon Ayuk is questionable with whatever happened to him on Sunday. I guess he hurt his shoulder or something early in the game.
I know he came down on a ball, right? You know, I thought it was a broken clavicle right off the get-go, but he got back up and he was in the game later, but he's sore. So, and that you bruise up in here, that whole shoulder, you know, is susceptible. So I think he's going to be okay, but I think even if they don't have him on the team, you know, if he's not playing, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference.
I don't think so.
They got Jennings. Who else they got? They got
Kittle. We didn't talk about Kittle.
We didn't. Hadn't been anything to talk about Kittle. I had him playing against me this week, and I don't think he scored 5 points.
He didn't. He did okay week 1. He did not do much week 2. And this is the problem with Kittle. Kittle is such an all-around tight end. He's really good blocking too. That he's not the Travis Kelce. They don't use him in that fashion where he's more of a receiver than, you know, a tight end.
He's a good football player.
Fantastic. He's the tight end you want on your football team if you're building one out.
Yeah,
because he does so many different things.
Losses, he's your guy. But I mean, a couple years ago we were ranking him right up there with Kelce, and in drafts he would have been the number 2 pick, and then and now he's down around 4 or 5. I mean, out here in California, he still goes quick just because we have a lot of homers out here.
Yeah,
and that's in any NFL city. You know, you're going to have your homers.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. So keep an eye on Brandon Ayuk throughout the week. Keep an eye if he's on your team. But other than that, those are kind of the primetime players for Thursday night. Howie and I will be live on Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 Pacific, for our sit start. We hope to see you there. For Howie, I'm Mikey. We'll see you next time.
Oh, one more thing. For those of you who want to see it, I blew it on the chili pepper challenge, so I'll be eating a nice big old chili Saturday morning.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yummy breakfast.
Ha! We'll see you Saturday.
All right.